And good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land presented by BuzzSports CLE. I am Ethan Greenberg, and alongside of me is my co-host Madison Delaney. And joining us this evening here for a little while is the one of the hosts of the Voice of the Land podcast. You might know him also from the Cleveland Crunch, from ESPN Cleveland, Kevin Arnold. Kevin, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do it. I wish I would have known to put the old Twitter handle in the name, but I don't really care about followers and stuff like that. So, you guys keep building it, and I don't. I should have remembered that because I watch all the time, and I'm like, I see your guys' handles all the time, and I'm like, ask for my name. Just put in my name. I don't know.
Well, it's all right. It's all right. It is Kevin with an A. He's the man, and we will definitely be posting something after the show here, and everyone can follow you.
That's for sure. I'm something.
You are. You're something else. You are something else. So, yeah. So we've had a lot of excitement going on here in the land. Certainly with all of our sports teams here, with the Browns getting ready to kick things off on September the 10th against the Bungles, and then you've got the Guardians. Well, they made moves this afternoon. That was exciting. That was exciting.
Lucas Giolito, guys. I mean, I never thought I'd see that name connected with the Guardians.
Yeah, other than him kicking our butts.
Yeah. I mean, I thought like one of the main losses that we would have. Lucas Giolito has a great line because it's facing off against the Guardians. I guess I didn't take it in when I first got the MLB update. And then I heard it on air when I was working behind the scenes. I was like, oh, that is to us, not against us. I like it.
Definitely. That was, I want to get around to that. That was a hilarious exchange this afternoon between Emmett and Jordan on the next level when this all came down. That was classic. And like the Twitter meltdown and fallout is interesting to say the least. Very interesting.
Well, Emmett's also been, he's kind of been bombarded with all the tweets about, the Guardians aren't making it to the World Series. They're not winning the World Series. So why should it matter? So he's kind of taken that stance, and now it's kind of changed everything. But I understand where he's coming from when he's saying, like, why are we doing this now?
Yes.
You had the chance to do it when you were half a game out. You had a chance, not necessarily to get Giolito, but to get this team better and actually make moves. And instead you do nothing, and you show your fans a whole different mentality than what the players are going out there expecting, what Tito's going out there expecting. And now you go after a pretty good pitcher in his career, some other good pieces there from the Angels too. You go out there on the waiver wire when you're 5 games back and well below 500. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the message is. I don't know what their plan is. And that's the most frustrating thing to be a baseball fan right now.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And it's a head scratcher. I think that's the best way I can put it. It's a head scratcher. And I've got no problem with really, and you can be on whatever side of the argument or discussion you want to be on. That's all good. I think when it comes down to it, for all of us, for me, for you, for Madison, for any of the folks out there, Cleveland sports fans, we want to see our team win. And sometimes, we're not sure or happy with how they get there. We just want to see them get there, and we want to see them win. And so it's interesting to me in this day and age with the social media, how everybody fights, all the infighting. It's like, look, we got enough issues going on here. Let's not, cannibalize each other as a fan base. And, so let's be supportive is I suppose where I would come from in this whole line of thinking.
And it's something that Jay and I talk about all the time. I know you guys probably know, and you probably talked about it too. Where do you have to agree every time you have a conversation with someone? No, but does it have to be to the point that like this person has to be right or that person has to be right or their opinion is fact? Like those two words aren't the same thing. They're not synonyms in a thesaurus. If I could even talk tonight, it's been a long day, guys.
Oh,
Trust me,
oof.
been a long day. But you're not going to see those two words together. You can agree to disagree, and at ultimately, especially when it's Cleveland fans debating Cleveland fans, we all want the same thing. So, look, guess what? I may say something on here that and say, hey, I don't know where the Guardians are going. And they go on a run by adding these pieces. And they finally decided that they really wanted to go for it. And guess what? I'll come back on here. I'll go on any show and say, I was wrong. I don't like, that's just the thing. It doesn't, if someone disagrees and says, like, hey, Lucas Giolito is the greatest thing, and this team does know where they're going and stuff. Okay, I want to know where you're coming from, and if I can understand that at least, and maybe you don't get me to agree with you, we can kind of go our separate ways and still agree to disagree and still be the same Cleveland fans and have those same goals in mind. I don't understand it. It's this whole first take, undisputed. It's this clicks. It's the you got to get people to react. It's people like Adam Rank putting the Browns at 6-11 in last place,
Yes.
right? Like we're talking about them and we're doing what they want us to do. They're just putting stuff out there to get people to react, and they're just yelling at each other all the time. It's not what I get into. I can't really watch those shows. If other people can, again, we can agree to disagree.
Definitely. Definitely. And I mean, I know I listen to ESPN Cleveland on the stream, and then I'm following on Twitter, and quite honestly, let's point the blame where we really need to point it. It's all RJ's fault and Rob Lorenzo and all the digital team that are putting up all these things. I mean, no, just
Yeah,
kidding
I
completely.
know.
No, they're it's
No
exactly what
comment.
it's exactly what it's exactly what you said, Kevin, and it kind of go. I think about this: the bad publicity is better than no publicity. So people are talking about it, whether they agree or not. They're still talking about it, etc. But Kevin, so I just wanted to have you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your background. Um, you've done play-by-play for the Chagrin Valley Conference. Who's in the Chagrin Valley Conference?
I mean, it's schools like Wycliffe, where I went to school. It's Chagrin Falls, Orange, Perry in Lake County, not in Massillon. I mean, you got to make sure
Emmett
you
needs to
drive.
know that.
Yes, you got to differentiate the two. But honestly, the CVC has expanded from what it was when I was in school to now 26 schools. It's kind of like what we got going on in college football. There's this like conference realignment and all of that kind of stuff. I don't really understand it, but all the schools are at least within the same region. You're not, traveling across the state
Right.
to play against each other, just like teams are going to now travel across the country to play in games. It's going to create great matchups, great conversations, but is what it is. But yeah, I've done that. I mean, with this year doing more high school stuff at ESPN Cleveland, I haven't had a chance to get with the fine folks at CVC, but I mean, I know that they already have a strong team there. So, and Peter, who produces our podcast, he'll make anything look more than professional. I mean, that's some of those streams are better than some of the stuff you're going to see on TV, and that's just how insane that whole operation is.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And you and I, we share a little bit in common here. We were both in the athletic shoe and apparel world for a while. You were at Dick's.
Yeah.
I was a finish line guy
Okay.
for
Okay.
my first job in high school, but I do spend a lot of time at Dick's. My kids got get their shoes there quite frequently. Don't
I
go to the
found better
mall so
shoes at
much.
finish line all the time. I found better shoes at finish line.
Really, it all depends on the market.
Yeah.
It depends on the market because the store is designed and to fit the customers that are going to be going in there. And unfortunately, the one at the mall near me, I don't know. Madison, where are you shopping for shoes these days?
I just order online, I guess. Either buy shoes that tells me which ones I need to make me run.
Well, there you go. There you go. And then you've got a bunch of other things on your resume. One of the things that I've listened to some of your clips, Cleveland Crunch play-by-play. You work with Mark Munch Bishop.
Yes. He came back because he's the original. I give him all the credit in the world. He's the original voice of the Crunch. Unfortunately, when the team did come back and they were doing this, Munch was brought on and he had some health issues. I would say, it's kind of, this industry is about sometimes who you know, not what you know. Lucci, who's one of the owners with his family of the Crunch, he was 2 years younger than me in high school, so we played soccer together. So he just knew me. He knew what I was doing at the time and asked if I would be willing to fill in. And then I got Peter connected with it as well, and it's kind of taken off from there. And then Munch was able to come back this past season, which was really, really good to work with a legend that I'd listened to myself. So it's the team that, look, I went to more of their games than anybody else, not because that was the team that I was the biggest fan of. I mean, soccer is my favorite sport, but I would have loved to have gone to more Indians games and Cavs games. Browns weren't around every year of my childhood, but and then they weren't very good either. So I was more willing to go to Cavs games and and all that stuff. But I mean, it was the affordable ticket, and they made it such a family-friendly affair on Cleveland State's campus at what used to be known as the Convocation Center, now the Wolstein Center. I know that the Crunch would love to get back there someday. They just haven't been able to make those connections yet. But it's such a family-friendly affair, family-friendly event, and it's continued with this new ownership group bringing the team back. And we've got people lined out the door because there's so many people that want to come to the games. They just got to get to that point of building the organization and all of the assets behind it to then be able to move to that bigger facility. We had one, but unfortunately that fell through, not to anyone's faults.
Right. And
just didn't seem to work.
Right. And are you speaking of the arrangement with the IX Center?
Yes.
Okay, I gotcha. And the Crunch going into this coming season has a new coach, Antonio Manfud.
Yes, and he's been on the staff and even like on the team, kind of like a player coach transitioning to the coach side of things. So Manfoot's been around. He knows all these guys, depending on who stays and stuff, because there's some guys like the captain, Dave Jordan, who I know he's probably going to play again this year, but he's only got a couple of years left. He's building his family just like I'm building my family, and kind of being able to devote that time. He's kind of helped set the standard, helped set the culture there with the Crunch, with this new reincarnation of it. And, someone that I know that a lot of the young players look up to. And there's so many guys that want to go to their tryouts. I don't know if tryouts are going to keep continuing because they have such a pool of players that you haven't even seen on the main roster yet.
And do you think that at some point the Crunch are currently now, correct me if I'm wrong, they're like in the second division or a lower division of the professional indoor soccer league. They're not at like the top tier Premier League.
That's where they were when they came back. So Major Arena Soccer League 2. So it was the second tier. So if you're anybody that knows Premier League soccer championship, that's the next tier down. And you can have teams actually, if they're so bad, they get relegated down. They don't get to have like all these draft picks and stuff like that to get better. They don't get rewarded for sucking. They get demoted for sucking throughout the season. But then it was just, there was some, I guess conversations, some issues money-wise, travel-wise with that league. And Lucci got together with some of the other owners of some of the teams in that league, and they've created their own league. So it's the top tier of it because it's just getting started. They had 4 teams on the waiting list. Other teams around the country were looking to get in to have different divisions set up. There was 12 teams this past year. It's major. I think it's MISL. I always got it wrong because I was so used to saying MASL2, and now it's like, all these letters kind of band together. But they basically created their own league, and it's going to go from probably 12 teams to 16 teams this next season. And they see some growth and opportunity there because the team fees for the other league were just so high it didn't allow new teams to really get off the ground, and that was really the problem because they wanted to spread the game of soccer, and yet they were kind of being they just felt like they were being held back a little bit and decided, hey, plenty of room to go around. Let's create another league. Let's keep this sport growing and keep it in the minds of everybody throughout the year.
So, two questions for you, Kevin. First of all, growing up as a Crunch fan, who was your favorite player?
It was Hector Marinero. I mean, I know that's probably like a cliche answer. That's probably like a typical, and I've seen that. I've been looking at that jersey in the background. I'm like trying to make it look like I'm looking at this little camera on my computer here, but I've been eyeing that jersey. I've also been eyeing the LeBron jersey because a little side story. The night that he made the decision to leave,
Right.
I wasn't one of the people that burned my jerseys or anything like that. I folded up my jerseys and my t-shirts and all my gear nicely. I had a jersey for every day of school if I needed it. I was wearing a jersey for game days every single day. Folded them up nicely, put them in a box, and put them up in the attic. And then, like when I had moved out of my childhood home, and that day he came back, I went home. I went up to that attic. I tried to find that box and all the stuff that had moved to the house I was living in at the time. I couldn't find them. There are 7 jerseys somewhere, hopefully in a family house that I just passed over, but I have not been able to find them. Yes, there are seven different LeBron jerseys somewhere that I would like to someday find and then pass on to Lincoln and my other kids as Jana and I grow our family. But but Hector Marinero was definitely that player for me because I was the kid going to the Crunch camps at that time. And guess what? These professional players were showing up to the camps. Like they were doing it without the cameras and all of that stuff. You see a lot of it now with the NBA players, NFL players, and it's like they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart still. I still give them all the credit in the world, but Crunch were kind of one of the first ones when I was a kid. I got to see the main stars right there, and they were the ones that were coaching me in the sport that I loved, and it was just the best thing. And Hector was so nice to everyone, so I just had that connection with him.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough. I sat in the lucky seat and won that in a raffle, so I was very fortunate. And I happened to actually go to the 2 championship games when they won. And so I feel very fortunate to have been there to see those championships. My friend and I, we always used to remark and talk about the dancing guy that was like on the one. He normally sat near one of the ends, and he would
I
be.
think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, every time they play, let's go Crunch. That guy was dancing and stuff. I love that going down to the Convo. I mean, it was fantastic. When they were still the Force and they played out at the Ridgefield Coliseum in their early days with Kai Hoskavy, Dennis Meffam, Carl Valentine, and the likes. And for me growing up as well, being in Canton, got to watch the Canton Invaders a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been around soccer, and you mentioned it, and we talk about it, the Premier League. You're a fan of Man U.
Since I was 5 years old, people are gonna hear that and they're gonna think I'm one of the people that jump on the bandwagon. No, since I was 5 years old, my dad handed me a VHS tape of David Beckham, and from that point on, I was a David Beckham fan. I was a Manchester United fan, and soccer's been in me. It's not like I have to qualify myself, but I do because everybody sees Manchester United and Manchester City as like the Yankees and Red Sox, the baseball, and those that just can go out there and buy everybody. We buy people and they don't do anything lately. So since Sir Alex Ferguson was the coach, United hasn't been to that level. It's City you need to question people's fandom of. If they're a fan of City, you got to get them to explain how long they've been a fan and why they're a fan.
Right, definitely. And as we've talked, I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan through and through. My dad being from England, and that's his team. So I've been born into that, and I feel, and I talked to Emmett about this, that it's kind of like the Cleveland of the Premier League.
I can see that. Yeah,
you have this talent, and you can't get them. Haven't won in forever. And it's rough sometimes, and losing guys like Harry Kane and Gareth Bale. You just have this tremendous talent, and then you've got ownership that doesn't want to allocate funds to the right types of players to do something, and that makes me think about the Guardians, et cetera, et cetera. But it's early this season. It is early, and just 3 games into this year's fixtures, and so hopefully it'll be a good competition and it won't be a runaway.
Yeah, I mean, City's, they've gotten the 3 points out of all of their first 3 games. I don't know that they've really played anybody. I was talking with Emmett with E the other day before the Carabao Cup game for Tottenham, and he's like, Tottenham's playing Fulham today, and I was like, yeah, I did see that. Tottenham. He was saying, and I was saying, Tottenham should have this taken care of, and just like United. I mean, we face off against some of the teams that are expected to be poor, and we allow them to punk us early in the year, and then we drop points, and that's basically what it is. Those games that we talk about with the Browns, like, man, if they would have done this, if they would have had that shoulda, coulda, woulda type moments, that one simple play or moment in the game, how big those little moments are and impactful. It's the same thing with United. It's the same thing with Tottenham. Like, there's just these games where you drop the game and you look back at the season like, man, we finished in third, but we were only 5 points away. This game, and I can point to this game and this game, we're Premier League champs, or at least in second place. Like, we're giving City a run for their money. And it's the Browns. They're like, oh man, like, we're very competitive. Like, we just came up 3 points short. Or if we would have had average quarterback play, if we would have kicked this field goal here, trust me, like, those that aren't into soccer, you can, if you like the misery that is, misery loves company type level of Browns fandom, we got some teams for you in the Premier League on the soccer side. And if you need that feeling in the off season of the Browns, you're missing that feeling, come on over to the Premier League to soccer, and we'll get you a few teams you can get that feeling from.
We'll put you in the perfect team. We'll find the right fit for you. It's like,
yes.
Are you looking for an occasional win, a disappointing loss when you've got a big match? Well, let's put you in this team. Yeah, it's crazy, and I think about that with the Guardians specifically. So I know you've got limited time, so I wanted you to be able to tell us a little bit about what you're doing on Friday nights over there at ESPN Cleveland.
So, High School Hysteria, I guess I can say presented by Wendy's. I mean, there's no sponsors here, but it's just natural for me to say that at this point.
Do you get a juicy double, like as Aaron said, a juicy?
No. I mean, I don't see any of that stuff. I mean, nobody sees any gift cards. You guys know that. I mean, like, Ethan, you know that. No one actually sees any gift cards. There's gift cards that exist, but no one sees these gift cards. Now, I'd have to hand those off because, somehow God blessed me with later in life allergies to dairy and gluten, to the main food groups, and now I don't get to enjoy food at all. Although junk food Junk food's a real problem. Junk food is a real problem because they have good replacements. Gluten-free Oreos, not much of a difference, let me tell you. Gluten-free Oreos, pretty good. They're my kryptonite. Nice. But High School Hysteria, yeah, it's our high school show. Originally, of course, at ESPN Cleveland, they used to do play-by-play of high school games, and I would love to try to push for them to bring that back now that COVID is really, it's not that it's done, and we thank everybody that continues to fight it and help make sure that it just stays, kind of turns into what the flu has been for us for many years. But, right now in COVID, back in 2020, the show turned into a scoreboard show, basically, to keep everybody updated, that we're driving around. They weren't able to go to games anymore. And now it's turned into, we still have the scoreboard show. We have someone on the sideline. We have a street team out there handing out prizes. But Dale Davison, myself, Carmen Kalo, this year's version of High School Hysteria, we're really trying to dive in more, instead of just rattling off scores and then diving right into the Browns. It's not that we don't want to talk Browns or don't want to talk football, but there are so many good coaches in this area. There are so many great players. There's so many mentors to young people in this area, and we definitely want to highlight them. I know moving forward, Dale, Carmen, and I, we've talked about adding in some updates on some of the other sports in the fall for these high schools as well. Like soccer is going on, volleyball, cross country, golf, all of this stuff is going on, and there's still great student athletes on those sports as well. So trying to use how great football is, and keep promoting that, but also use it as a beacon to highlight some of the great people in student athletics in this area as well. So that's kind of what we do. Of course, we'll touch on the Buckeyes, we'll touch on the Browns. We got 3 hours. We're on 7 to 10 on every Friday for 10 weeks. So now 8 weeks left of the show on 850 ESPN Cleveland, ESPN app, TuneIn app. I know Lane On Demand app or .com. You can still get the live stream free, and then all the extras. That's where the subscription comes in.
Right now, I hope that Good Karma Brands, who owns ESPN Cleveland and a number of stations, would be able to provide you with another platform or another outlet to be able to build the programming up. Having worked at my first job at a radio station down in Canton, covering high school sports, high school football, and high school basketball. That was definitely a great experience. And we would go to the local in Stark County. They would have like a coaches program or show. And I would go down there and I would get interviews with all these guys before the season. So it sounds like you've got a real great bunch of people to work with there, with Carmen and Dale and the guys on the street team, Coop, etc. Who are you guys featuring this week?
So this week it's going to be Willoughby South at Brush. Both teams they're both 0-2 coming into this one. Two teams that, they've had two tough opponents, higher division opponents, especially in for Willoughby South, Shaker Heights, which that's I believe a Division I, Region 1 team. Like, it's weird some of these schools that are kind of putting that juggernaut, but Shaker Heights has been on the rise for a while, and that was a pretty close game. Last week, they couldn't get anything going. Willoughby South, they lost 41-6 to Madison. Madison, as they've kind of underachieved over the last several years for what their standards are. Madison, out in Lake County, is a juggernaut as well in high school football and high school athletics. So a couple tough games for them. I know a couple tough games for Brush as well. Going to be diving in a little bit more in the morning, especially on some of the statistics and everything. But Willoughby South at Brush, usually a pretty good game from year to year. Two teams that are hungry and two teams that expect and think that they're better football teams than their record suggests. So you're going to get two hungry football teams, two motivated football teams. I actually just talked to Willoughby South's coach just before I got home, and he was talking about how at practice this week, it's probably their best week of practice they've had since they got together over the summer. And the motivation, the drive that these kids have to show that they're a better football team. I'm looking forward to what might be going on out there. And then, of course, there's going to be some other big matchups. We'll make sure that we definitely cover tomorrow night. And it's such a joy to do this kind of stuff. And I know you're talking about the station in Canton. I listened to them, WOBL in Lorain County that covers high school football. Like, I could shout out so many radio stations. There's one in Tuscarawas County as well, as I drive down and drive to the in-laws, and we're WTUZ, Z Country. That's kind of what I would love to do, like the play-by-play, the covering the high school football, the basketball, and that type of stuff. Because there's so many good athletes and student athletes in this area, and that's what CBC TV is doing. That's what so many other people are doing. I think a lot of people are catching on to how great we have it here in Northeast Ohio.
There certainly are. They're just fantastic athletics throughout the state of Ohio. I think that very fortunate growing up there and being a part of that. Again, Kevin, I know. So how old is Lincoln now?
He is going to be 4 months tomorrow.
Oh my goodness! And,
yes.
And how exciting has it been to be a parent?
It's the best thing in the world. I'm looking at him right now, so I'm going to try not to get too emotional right now. It really is, like, you don't realize it until it actually happens. Like how rewarding it is, how great it is. There's going to be those tough moments, but it's tough because you're worried about them, and they, especially at this young age, they can't handle things on their own. So, that worry, that's all part of it, but it just makes everything that much better, that much rewarding. Like and that smile when I get home or when I go pick them up from the babysitter.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that just means the world to me, and it means more than all this. I mean, I say on the podcast all the time, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. That's because don't let people tell you can't do something, you can't achieve something, but still realize that there's other things that are more important. And him, Jana, my family, those are the most important things. It's always family first, and that's how I'm always going to be. And I'm going to try to give my all to them and give my all to my friends and all that stuff, and people like you that I've been able to connect with. You guys ever need anything, or just to come on the podcast and just chat for a while, I'm always here, because that's just the type of person I am. So I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come on here. And it's emotional. I can see him right now. So I haven't seen him yet today.
Oh no. All right. Well, let me do one real quick thing here. Something fun we like to do. A quick segment called Yay or Oy Vey.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So yay or oy vey. And this is based upon commercials I hear mostly on ESPN radio on my drive-in, ESPN National.
Mm-hmm.
Foreign products for hair loss. Yay or oy vey? Madison, what do you say? Yay or oy vey on the foreign hair products?
I'm going to oy vey on that, although I think that they have some higher level of approval systems, so it may be more trustworthy. But I'm still going to go oy vey.
All right. Foreign hair products. Restore your hair, Kevin.
No, this is a choice. So I got oy vey. I mean, it's just so much easier because I can just wake up, roll out of bed, and go to work. So yeah, no, I'm oy vey on that one.
All right, I'm a hat guy. I'm a hat guy. I do brush my hair nowadays, but I do like to put on the hat, have that opportunity. Okay. Then I heard this one for the longest time. Have you been taken by a timeshare? Call me. I can get you out of timeshares, blah, blah, blah. So services to get you out of your stupidities and the timeshares, and probably get you into more trouble trying to get you out of said timeshares. Kevin, go to you first. Yay or oy vey on the services to get you out of timeshares?
I mean, I hope I haven't done anything that stupid, but I mean, the stupidities that I do get myself into, I'm going to say yay if there's a service to get me out of it.
You think the guy's a scam artist, though? Basically, he got himself into trouble with...
Yeah.
And I looked him up, and I'm like, oh, this sounds like the fishiest thing I've ever heard. But so you're going to go yay on that.
I'm gonna go yay as long as I don't got things coming out of my pocket to pay them for.
Okay. Madison, do you think that those people who are advertising services to get you out of your timeshare are on the up and up? Yay or oy vey?
They're like scamming you, of course, because I recently saw people post about a timeshare they had, and I did not know it was still a thing. So they need it. So the business must be booming because they're still out there.
All right. So you're going to go yay. Okay. Ads, and this hasn't been on for a while, but ads for smokeless tobacco. Just have a thing of smokeless tobacco. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? You're advertising for smokeless tobacco. Kevin, smokeless tobacco ads. Yay or oy vey?
Oy vey. I mean, I don't touch that stuff. I'll never touch that stuff. People say smokeless tobacco, or like, get this vape pen, like, so you get the feeling of smoking, but you're not actually smoking, but actually you're putting worse stuff in your body. So yeah, oy vey. No.
Oy vey.
Nowhere close.
Madison, yay or oy vey ads for smokeless tobacco?
Yeah, I'm going to have to echo that with an oy vey. I think no explanation needed.
All right. And then the final one, and I think this is something that you hear kind of on advertisements, but then you also receive telemarketing calls about it. Ads for federal tax reductions. Did you know you could be eligible to get your taxes reduced? Madison, yay or oy vey on the federal tax reduction advertisements?
I will go yay for the sole reason, and I won't name names, but I have a family member who mispaid their taxes, apparently,
Whoopsie.
only to find out a few years later that they had a bill that they had. So it had just ballooned from there. So I'll say yay for their
Okay.
purpose, I guess.
All right. And Kevin, yay or oy vey on these alleged federal tax reduction services?
I understand where Madison is coming from, but I'm going to say oy vey only because I've been through so much of scamming training at work. It's a big thing with GKB. So the phishing emails, the phone calls, the links in text messages and stuff like that. So anything that I think is not really the IRS or federal government or people that I actually know, I gotta always say oy vey. I'm going to err on the side of caution. Maybe some people say I should be more of a risk taker, but yeah, when it comes to money, all that's going to Lincoln right now. So yeah, I got to keep all that as close as I can. Yeah,
that is fantastic. All right, and before you go, before I let you get to your family, just tell us, where we can find your podcast, when we can find your podcast.
So we are on usually every Wednesday night, either at 7 or 8. We kind of vary it up. We like to mess a little bit because sometimes each of us all of us have families, all of us have stuff to do. So sometimes we like to get out a little bit early. But Wednesday nights, we didn't do it this week. Jay's down in Florida. He's riding boats, fishing, and just sitting out, watching the sunrise, drinking his coffee and stuff. So he needed a vacation. Our little AI system, Peter, needed his vacation as well. He's got his son in high school and everything, so he's trying to help out there. And but Wednesdays at VTL_pod on. Are you guys calling it Twitter or X, by the way?
It's still technically Twitter. The address, if you go in the address bar and you type in you want to get to it, it's twitter.com.
Okay. All right. I'm just making sure. I go by Twitter too. So at VTL_pod on Twitter, Google, Spotify, Apple, you can just search Voice of the Land and you'll find the podcast. And then, Cleveland Crunch games will be coming up. We'll be on their YouTube channel, Facebook page. Keep an eye out for that. And, just remember that, when we say we love you all 3,000 on our podcast, we do that because, yes, we're Marvel fans, number one, but more importantly, spreading love in this world is more important than the hatred, everything that has been going on in this world recently. We try to spread as much love as we can. So come on in, tune in, and trying to find ways to get more people to be able to tune in or at least chime in to the show too. We're letting the AI system figure that one out because I ain't got that technical expertise at all.
I hear you. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'll let you go and join Lincoln and Jana and your family and have a very good evening. I know you got a busy day tomorrow. So once again, I want to thank our guest, Kevin Arnold, tonight, host of the VTL podcast, Voice of the Land, Crunch, etc. Thanks again, Kevin.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity, Madison, Ethan. Thank you. Anytime, reach out. I'll help however I can.
And I am Madison. I assume we reciprocate that anytime we can ever join on your program. We'll be glad to do so.
Absolutely. Talk to you guys soon.
Have a good night, Kevin. That was Kevin Arnold joining us here. Appreciate him hopping on from ESPN Cleveland. We touched on a few things there. And yeah, the Madison, now, do you have any, and I'm surprised, we probably talked about this before, but have you had any professional soccer teams in your region? I mean, I know you have the women's soccer. Do you have any men's soccer, any indoor soccer teams in the region?
Not that I know. We have Charlotte now in the we have FC in Raleigh, which is I think the below the top league in MLS, or at least maybe they're trying to get to the second level.
Okay.
I'm not entirely clear. We tried to get the MLS team for expansion, and then Charlotte got it. So I think that probably takes us out for a good little bit.
Gotcha. So all kinds of things we touched upon there going on in the world of sports. And the Browns, they got down to their 53-man roster. That was the big excitement of the early portion of the week as the roster cut downs were let's see, my brain, I'm losing track of days here. I believe that was on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then yesterday we got to sign people back to the practice squad. Um, when you look at the roster, at the 53-man roster as it is constructed now, did you see any glaring weaknesses that Browns fans should be concerned about going into the opener?
It's a good question. I mean, I think the depth behind Chubb we've talked about is still a question mark. Obviously, we made a trade for a guy from the Patriots. I just, it's like they don't give those players away. If they're, really good, then that's kind of the situation. And obviously, we gave a depth piece back. And that's kind of how it goes. So that's probably the top concern. Obviously, you're handing the ball off to Nick Chubb, so who really cares beyond that? And generally, he's pretty healthy, but he has missed some games. So I do think we probably need to add another. That is Ford. We just haven't seen him yet. And he's also not been super healthy. So it is a little bit of a concern. But it's kind of like you put it on that offensive line. What does it really matter? And maybe that's the case. We'll find out.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you make a good point there. And like you said, we've discussed it before because right now the running back room as it stands is Chubb, then Ford, and now we've got this guy Pierre Strong that we made the swap with the Patriots. We sent them Tyrone Wheatley Jr. And get back this Pierre Strong guy. He went to South Dakota State, and he seems like he's shifty fast. Maybe he can be a little bit like Terrence West, if you remember the year. Maybe it was under Pett when we had Crowell and Terrence West.
Yeah,
they were a pretty good running back duo, a good 1-2 punch there. And as you said, if the offensive line does what it is capable of doing, there should be plenty of running lanes. And this is honestly, I've probably said it before, so I apologize for being repetitive, but we haven't seen the Browns, especially since 1999, with a quarterback like we are going to potentially see in Deshaun Watson. Nobody has had as high of a ceiling or the physical attributes and capabilities that he has. So it's going to transform football, offensive football for the Browns that as we know it. At least I hope so. I hope that it transforms. I hope that Stefanski finds a good way, a good mixture of the run and the pass and the gadget plays and when to go for it, etc. I was thinking about in the 53, the one thing that kind of concerns me, you look at the linebacking room. Very nice to see the undrafted free agent. Gosh, I'm going to butcher the name. Diabate.
Yeah.
Diabate makes a team. Also, Hickman, an undrafted free agent, makes a team. But so we're talking about linebackers, and you've got, according to the ClevelandBrowns.com, you've got Diabate. And I see on here Tony Fields II, as well as Anthony Walker, who was named a captain. And you've got Taki, as well as JOK. So I'm still a little bit concerned. It's going to be a little bit thin. Worry about the injuries there. I suppose if that is our biggest concern, maybe that's not so bad. The glaring weakness throughout the preseason that all Browns were watching just completely unravel in front of us was the Cade York kicking debacle. And it started off so promising last year as he really saved the Browns' butt. The embarrassment and the egg on this franchise's face if they would have blown that game to Baker Mayfield and the Panthers, it would have been tough to live down for a while because that guy talks and it just wouldn't have been good. And so Cade York comes out and kicks a 58-yarder to save the team. And his home performance was never great. He missed the most kicks in the league overall last season, and he was terrible this preseason. And I really think it was in as much as it might have been mechanics, his mechanics were being affected by what was between his ears. And for whatever reason, this was just not working. And although this couldn't be, I would say, verified, I heard a report or I saw something of Jake Trotter, a beat reporter for the Browns with ESPN, works with ESPN Cleveland. And he talked about one day at practice, there were two fields simultaneously, and they were on, he was kicking on the far field, and for about 30 minutes, he didn't make one kick. If that's accurate at all, or even close, that's certainly alarming. So as we were chatting before the program, you bring in Dustin Hopkins. Hopkins is a veteran. And I know that the guys on the air, on the local radio, talk about potential health issues with the hamstring that got to him last year, that hampered him, and he didn't play the whole season. So I know there's kind of some issues there, but if we can keep him 45 and in, I would feel pretty confident. If we're beyond 45, that's probably a little bit dicey.
Yeah, I think my concern is obvious. I mean, naturally, obviously, percentages drop the further you get out, of course, for pretty much everyone except maybe Justin Tucker. I think he's like 50% over 50, which the thing that makes me nervous and unsure is that tells a little bit that I'm worried about your leg strength. And if you have a strong leg, anything even closer than 40 potentially is a problem with the wind off the leg. May not be the case. I have not watched him kick every field goal he's ever taken. But generally, I feel like that's root cause. And that is something I think you need. It's similar to how you need a strong arm if you're going to play quarterback in Cleveland. We're going to throw in the early winter months, right? So that's the part that concerns me. I think it's like 80% from like maybe like 40, like around 45-ish. There's some range in there, and that is also not great. So I don't know if he's the one or if he's Band-Aid until we can figure it out. I know we also signed a kicker to the practice squad, which is interesting. That tells me we don't have a lot of it's weird to sign a kicker to the practice squad after you make a trade for a kicker. I don't know if that signals they want it, but it tells me they're not sure he's the guy.
Well, I could go at it from another angle, and I guess we're talking about kicking. That's kind of no pun intended. But no, my thought is this: if he does have potential, if he is injury prone, that could be a reason to have somebody on the practice squad. I'm not sure if there's been a change in the number of players you can have, et cetera. I mean, heck, they were talking about wanting to, even being willing to, or wanting to bring Cade York back. He ultimately decides to go to Tennessee.
Do you believe that, though?
And if that is, at first I actually wrote down Madison. I'm like, are we buying this? Are we buying this? Maybe it was simply lip service to try and look good. But if that's the case, I would have thought that maybe Cade York or someone from his camp would have come out and said otherwise at this point. Or maybe it's a matter of we would have liked to have brought him back, but we didn't. They're leaving out the part of, but we didn't actually talk to him about it or his people. We would have liked to have had him back if he wanted to come back, kind of one of those things to try and save face. I don't know. Looking at his kicking stats here, you're right. From 40 to 49 in his career, he is 63 of 77. Not great. Definitely gets better. 39 and in, 57 of 61, 20 to 29, 53 to 50, 53 of 54, and then 2 of 2 from up to 19 yards. And he's played for Washington, so they don't always have the greatest weather there. And then played for the Chargers. I guess the good thing is he is a veteran. He did it. He came off well at the press conference. yesterday.
Loving it.
And I do love a press
We
conference
all
winner
do.
because it makes me feel like well, he wasn't overzealous, but his description of how he approaches it and how he's talking about, kind of being process oriented and it'll all kind of take care of itself. That's good. He's not going out there. Cade York has this giant leg, and maybe he's not focusing on the process
Yeah.
enough. I don't know what went wrong, what is going where the disconnect was for him, but hopefully this will at least be a little bit more consistent, and we could feel like, hey, if we score a touchdown, we're going to get the extra point, and if we need a field goal, he's made some clutch field goals. So, yeah, we'll hope for we'll hope for the best, and it'll be what it'll be. The darling of the preseason for the Browns, Austin Watkins, he gets brought back to the practice squad. Everybody was up in arms on social media.
Yeah.
Again, this whole thing with, I guess that would be technically the discussions that were happening many moons ago with people sitting at the bar or sitting in a coffee shop the morning after. Did you see what the Browns did? Or calling up a buddy or a friend or whatever it is and having these chats as opposed to sitting on Twitter and venting your frustration about how terrible the front office is, et cetera, and this guy deserves a spot and so on and so forth. I love an underdog story, and I'm glad he's back on the practice squad. Bottom line, another returner for the Browns this year, Brownie the Elf.
Yeah.
Brown and the Elf back on the 50-yard line, made it down in the final four from the helmet, the stripe, the new secondary dog logo, and the elf returning to the 50-yard line. I heard some conspiracy theory yesterday about these votes. We don't ever see the results, do we?
No, of course not.
So the marketing department puts this out, and we go and vote. We have no idea what the status is of these votes. We don't know who really wins. I mean, I would like to believe that all of these people voting did count and that this was the overall winner. I'm going to choose to believe that because it's so inconsequential. It doesn't, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I saw a conspiracy
So,
that it was specifically up another vote so that the elf wouldn't look so bad next to the logo that has pretty mixed reviews. Which
right.
The elf though, they keep them.
Oh, so do I. It's got history. It really does have history. I've read some things about it. It's a real FU to Art Modell, who got rid of the elf when he came and took ownership, and that's beautiful to me. Anything to say FU to Art Modell, that works for me. That really worked for me. And one of the players on the 53 that has not been practicing is Denzel Ward. He's in the concussion protocol after last Saturday's game against the Chiefs. And I didn't even know he had gotten injured, didn't see anything. And I still haven't heard or read anywhere exactly when this occurred. Is he kind of a ticking time bomb? Is he, for his career to be ended early due to these concussion injuries or concussions? I don't know if technically that's a concussion injury or if that's redundant, but you get where I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's his fourth just in the pros.
6 years?
Yeah. So
right.
I don't know. Did he have any in college? I have no idea. Seems like
I do not know this. I do not know the statistics, but still 4 in approximately 6 seasons. That's a fair amount, and it does make you go, is he going to survive?
Yeah. At that point, you do, I think, start thinking about your career, and I think what was it? Didn't Antonio Brown week, tweet something acting up, or like, you know, like that's on their radar. I don't think it's like that they're considering that at this point. There's a lot more research CTE. So I'm sure that he's thinking about it, at least of his head. I mean, one of my favorite, Luke Kuechly, retired early because of all those concussions. So I'm sure it's a concern. It's got to be the Browns front office, I would think. I know some people are like, come on, they're not worried about it, but like, you have to be. If you're not, that gives me more pause, because, you know, one more, two more, like how many, you know, get before someone intervenes if it's take him out like that. Like, you don't want someone to go, they have CT and all of that. So it's definitely concerning, and I think they need to be planning for his eventual departure. And obviously, I think they maybe thought through that a little bit with the MJ Emerson pick last year, where they're kind of thinking about that sort of thing, and also drafting Greg Newsome the year before. So I do think they're conscious of it as a front office, and hopefully he heals up and stays out of trouble, and whatever technique he's using, or, you know, maybe it's just a freak thing and it's just how it goes. But something needs to change so that he can continue if he wants to.
Yeah, definitely. And I would love to know what the newest technologies are with helmets. Um, Even going so far, I mean, I guess you see these issues with high schools that can't even get enough
Yeah.
helmets, and that's kind of scary that they can't even afford the helmets. I think that maybe and I know the Browns have done some things where they will donate helmets and this, that, and the other, and you'd like to see more of the NFL doing that type of thing. They've got a lot of money, and it sure would be good to help protect kids to keep the game going. Otherwise, kids are going to say, you know what? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It is not worth the risk of having my brain scrambled up like eggs. Um, Demetric Felton, he, you know, had a few seasons with the Browns, 2021 draft pick. He goes over to the practice squad of the Bengals. I'm not honestly very worried about that. The Browns do bring into the practice squad, and this will be a very interesting one. Alex Leatherwood, 17th pick of the first round by the Raiders, led by Mayock and Gruden, and he was just did not live up to the hype
Right.
there. Let's put it that way. I that could be a big steal if Callahan could do some magic with him, and would really help bolster the offensive line. He's young, and he apparently scored off the charts in whatever immeasurable scales they have. So I don't know about you. Was there anybody that you saw that we picked up and kept on the practice squad that was kind of surprising, but in a good way?
Yeah. Watkins was a little surprising in the sense that, I mean, I'm surprised no one made it on him, because I think he led the preseason in yards. Yes, you automatically, if you're making a claim, and that it sounded like he had offers from every team. So it is encouraging that he wanted to come back. Obviously,
Definitely.
not everybody discussed with Cade, and yeah. So I mean, it is what it is.
And Felton,
Yeah.
etc. And Tommy
No,
Togiai as well. He goes down to the Jags. He goes down to the Jags. And so just to kind of finish that out there, thoughts out there, the Bengals, a week one opponent, looks like Joe Burrow is going to be able to go,
Yeah.
and that's going to be a heck of a matchup. I really will be interested to see and would love to know the statistics. And no one seems to be talking about it, and maybe it's just not a matter of not talking about it yet. The matchups between Garrett and Orlando Brown, how they've matched up career wise, and I know you can't necessarily extract it all from the data, because if you look on the opposite side of the line and For the Browns, it's been Jadeveon Clowney, and he had one good year and one not so good year. You had, so I would really be curious to dive in deep into the numbers and that matchup. Obviously, we are going to have a better defensive line this year than we did in the last. So we got that going on for the Browns. Now, the Guardians, real quickly this afternoon, you don't, as Kevin was mentioning, we were talking about it early on. They don't do anything at the trade deadline. In fact, we got no major leaguers, or we got Noah Syndergaard in the one trade with Ahmed Rosario. We get Manzardo. He's injured. He's not playing. I mean, we didn't get anybody to immediately impact the team. And that's where my gripe is with it. It's fine if you want to trade some guys at the deadline, but then not bringing anybody in to try and make you better immediately. That's kind of where I disagree with the moves or the lack thereof for this season. Everything was kind of focused on next season. So that's kind of problematic for me in my opinion there. But they took advantage of the waiver wire. Well, first of all, they take 2 of 3 from Minnesota. Now we're 5 games out. Then they they kind of do the old man on Monty Python. I'm not dead yet. I'm not dead yet. I feel happy. So they go out and they get three Los Angeles Angels players that were put on the waiver wire, 3 pitchers. They get Giolito, Reynaldo Lopez, and let's see, is it Matt Moore?
Yeah,
I apologize. Yes, it is Matt Moore.
And he's quarterback for the Panthers back in the day.
Exactly. So Matt Moore has been very good on the mound this season. And Giolito, as Kevin was mentioning, was just a bona fide guardian killer, Indians Guardians, as a pitcher for the White Sox. So maybe the good fortunes that he had at Progressive Field will continue in a Cleveland uniform. And I was looking up the statistics a little earlier on Reynaldo Lopez. Reynaldo Lopez is a right-hander. He's a relief pitcher, and he even started his career. He started in Washington and then spent a vast majority of it, 2017 through the beginning of this season, with the White Sox. And he was a starter. He started 32 games in 2018 and 33 in 2019, but now he is a bullpen guy. Not so sparkling. I mean, he did have in 13 appearances for Los Angeles, he had 2 losses, 2.77 ERA in 13 innings pitched, 19 strikeouts to just 8 walks. So that's kind of a positive there. I think that Matt Moore is kind of the gem of the deal there. And, I suppose we shall have to wait and see if these guys can help the Guardians climb back and make a run here. We've got Tampa Bay coming up in a series at home starting tomorrow. And then Minnesota comes to town. Minnesota is in Texas for the Rangers. Then they come to Cleveland. If this team comes back from 5 games down and makes it and wins the Central Division and makes it in the playoffs, that'll just be, I mean, that's a minor miracle.
Yeah.
They really have been handicapped.
Yeah, I think it kind of feels like they have thrown spaghetti at the wall and seen what sticks with some of like the lineups they've put some of the younger guys out there and they've done well. I mean, like Bo Naylor's hitting pretty well, Calhoun's hitting pretty well. So it's like, I think that's maybe a little bit the reason for making claims on pitchers. It's like, oh, into something here by chance. Let's see where it takes us, and then kind of ride it out and see how it goes. And worst case, it's good experience, for the future. Best case, you make the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that the discussion this afternoon was, where did this come from? And I guess winning 2 of 3 from Minnesota changed the impression and the direction that they wanted to go in. Um, but this season, I think we'll have to wait till the end. But I do think this could be one that we look back on and say this is a season of missed opportunities, um, when it comes to bullpen meltdowns, blown saves, lack of hitting consistency, injuries to our starting rotation. I think that's what we'll be talking about. On a final note, about the Guardians, this came in last week, right before we went on. The Guardians are going to name starting next season. They are going to name the left field bleachers in honor of John Adams, who was out there uh, banging his drums for almost 50 years, from the days at Municipal Stadium when nobody was there, to Progressive Field when they were sold out, and then when they had not so many fans in the stadium. And right now, his drum is in Cooperstown. That's a real fantastic story for this Cleveland franchise. And really, this season, I think their marketing has done a fantastic job. They've outpaced themselves from last season's attendance. So they really have done a fantastic job this season. And so, just lastly but not leastly, this is week 1 of college football. Ohio State at Indiana, and Ohio State comes in, and again, these rankings, I don't even know why we're talking about what they're ranked, since the actual rankings that matter are the college football playoff rankings, which don't come out until later on in the season. But Kyle McCord, the junior, is named the starter by Ryan Day. Apparently, Devin Brown's going to play as well. Um, and I guess, as I'm looking at this game, Indiana is not much of an opponent compared to Ohio State this season. For you, as we saw what they went through at the end of last year and now the turnover at the quarterback, what do you think the most important thing is for Ohio State in this game?
Yeah, I guess I would probably say as much, and it's a little simple, I guess, but like as much as you can play mistake-free football, right? Like don't have unforced turnovers, especially out of the quarterback position. Obviously, there was a good bit of a battle, and I think there were comments from Ryan Day about like really separated themselves. I don't want to see them do that, and part of that is not putting the ball in harm's way in unnecessary situations against a lesser opponent. So that, I think, for me, and maybe a little bit of that separation, like let's prove you're the guy. If you're the guy, go be the guy. So that's going to be, I think, the big thing for them. And anyone taking kind of caliber a quarterback position for a team that is used to winning, they're not going to give you a much leeway on that, I don't think.
No, and I will certainly be interested to see what this offense is going to look like. We've got running backs, a good backfield returning. Travion Henderson, season was derailed last year with injuries. Still got Mayan Williams, Dallin Hayden. You saw guys just come in there and be able to bust off big runs for the Buckeyes, but they didn't do it as much as maybe we saw in the past. And the wide receivers that everybody is talking about, between Emeka Ibuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., and I had even forgotten about Julian Fleming. That guy seemed like he'd been around for a while. He Mr. Reliable. And then Cade Stover, the tight end, is fantastic as well. I really think that where Ohio State you talk about mistake-free football. I would focus my area that I'm concerned about. Obviously, I want to see the quarterback step up and show that he can lead this team, especially when it gets to be the tougher games. McCord's had one start. That was in CJ Stroud's first year when Stroud had a shoulder injury. McCord came in, started against Akron, went through 13 of 18, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He was also of note, the first quarterback recruit that Ryan Day picked. So Ryan Day, you you got to give him a little bit of leeway with his quarterback selections. And when I say selections, I should say recruits. So I don't know, but the Buckeyes will kick it off 3:30 from Bloomington at Indiana University Memorial Stadium. And so that brings us to our closing segment, Madison, about what has us going nuclear this week. Madison, do tell, what has you going nuclear this week?
Yeah, I think I have to go with this hurricane situation. So as mentioned earlier, I am in North Carolina. As I said earlier, it was beautiful. It was a great day, like best day we've had in months. And they canceled school yesterday for today. So they canceled it last night for today. We had rain overnight. I think drizzling when I 5 a.m. actually like 4:15. Barely a drizzle, a little breezy, not too bad. And yet, they had already canceled school. It stopped raining by 7 a.m. Like it's one thing if the hurricane makes landfall in North Carolina and it's coming up to Raleigh. We're not that far from the beach. The speed at which the hurricane was moving, totally get it. Would have made a lot of sense. It made landfall in Florida. It was no longer a hurricane. I think it's a tropical storm. Like it was so far away from us. We're only on the outskirts. It's the first too. It just started on Monday. Already got it, and I do have teacher friends who are rooting for it. One of them at school yesterday and couldn't do the remote work without it. But yeah, like we're what are we doing? That didn't make any sense. We called that way too early. If you would have waited until give it a delay. If you think it's gonna be bad, delay, and then you can always cancel later. I always had that in school with snow days. We did have a hurricane day when I was young though, and it was like this one where we had a hurricane day off and it ended up being beautiful out. And I did enjoy that. So hopefully the kids made some good memories at least, I guess.
Well, I understand. Yeah, you talk about the snow days, and here in Richmond, it's kind of puzzling to me, at least, with having kids in school, um, going from growing up in Northeast
Yeah, it's very different.
Ohio, where, yeah, very, very different, and what constitutes or gives reason for a delay or the schools being shut. I, so it makes me scratch my head, shake my head sometimes, and I don't know. I try not to worry about it too much because if I did, I'd drive myself nuts. I worry about enough other things. Um, so yeah, I get you. I get you. So yeah, there's a lot of things that bother me that have me going nuclear. But something that's been happening to me for a long time, and I don't know what the deal is. It's not with every pair of shoes, but why is it? And I'm a Nike guy, so I gotta say I noticed this with my Nikes. What is the deal with my Nike squeaking? It's always my left shoe, and it always squeaks. I just got a new pair of shoes a month ago, and they're already squeaking. And I'm trying to look up, well, what could it be? And this, that, and the other. I'll tell you what, that is just so annoying. I'm annoyed. I got to imagine people who are around me, if they hear me in a quiet place, it's kind of annoying to them, although it's good because I don't sneak up on them, especially in the office when I'm zipping around the corner because I'm always in a hurry. But come on, Nike. Are you kidding me? All these years, I'm telling you, when I was 16, I had a pair of shoes and they did the same thing, squeaking. So we're talking about 27 years worth of shoe technology, and you can't get me a stinking shoe that doesn't
You gotta
squeak.
hit up Phil Knight.
That's
Write him up. Let's see. Ask him what's going on.
Yeah, I do. I honestly thought about writing to Nike and complaining to somebody. It would have been in vain, but I did want to, write somebody and let them know about my displeasure with their product. Because I do enjoy the shoes. I've always enjoyed the shoes, but the constant problems with the squeaking over and over, that really has me going nuCLEar. So with that, we're going to shut her down here this week. Next week, we'll be getting ready for Browns kickoff, be able to talk some Buckeyes, and who knows where things will be at with the Guardians and whatever else is going on in the world of sports and in the world in general. So as always, Madison, appreciate you being here. Great show again. And so for Madison Delaney, I'm Ethan Greenberg, and you've been watching us here on Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage